Hi, everyone, and welcome to Be True, my podcast about the writing I love and the writing I do. I promise I won't rhyme the whole time. I'm John Tessitore, and today, a section from my long poem, Heal, a Life, which is available now as a free download at johntessitore.com. Heal is a poem that obsessed me for a while, maybe a month, maybe longer, and it's only about 8 pages long. 8 pages in a month. That should give you a sense of true obsession. It's the private story of a public figure, a character from my childhood, someone I loved, a guy who influenced me more than I should admit publicly, a character who was introduced to me at just the right moment in my youth when my brain was soft and he could become a part of me in weird ways, and who remains a part of me to this day. As I got older, I wondered about the man behind the man, the actual guy, not the character, not the guy in the spotlight, but the guy. What was his story? I guessed there was some darkness in his life, but my wonder remained pure wonder until this past year, when I started doing a little research. That delay was fortuitous. I needed to have lived a little, to have weathered a few storms of my own before I could understand the guy's real life, and before I could empathize. Because that shit was dark. But I've lived through some of my own shit now, and at this point in my life I've weathered a few storms. And I'd just come off a different literary project about existential darkness, my chapbook about devils and creativity called The Dark Ways Mysterious. So I was primed for the first time in my life to think about the dark backstory of a guy who played a villain in public life. I was ready to explore the true darkness of a guy who played a heel on TV. Not that I could relate to every detail, certainly not, but I'd white-knuckled my way through a few days and weeks. I'd survived some tough moments. I've made some decisions I regretted. You know, I lived an adult life, and I was ready for the heel's story. What follows then is a section of the poem in which the heel meets his fans like me as a kid, and knows they can't understand him as a person. He knows they will never see him, his life, his whole story. And it can be painful to be boxed in that way, but it can also be a relief, a protection, a shield. You, they understand. You, they know. The man as a cartoon, the man in 2 dimensions, the image of all their bad intentions. As if you don't realize that winners win. As if you lack their imagination for the main chance and dream the wrong dream. Everyone feels they're in on your game, except the pain, of course. Neck broken, joints crushed to sawdust, a secret stash in your suitcase. Because you never quit. That's your best act, in fact. You, walking tall, scowling, making them wait for the insult, then shouting it. You've been shouting through the pain for years, decades, and you'll keep shouting if you must. You'll never stop shouting. You'll die first. The cartoon, the man in 2 dimensions. That's what we make of our entertainers. We like to keep them on our walls as posters, as flat images, and condemn them when they climb down and assume 3 dimensions. The entire gossip industry and most of the internet economy is based on this reversal of fact and fiction. Remember the VH1 documentary series Behind the Music, all you Gen Xers? It was mind-blowing when it premiered, and its popularity was based on breaking what had been an age-old agreement between entertainer and audience, the Wizard of Oz bargain that we wouldn't pay attention to the man behind the curtain, because real life is so fucking messy. Childhood is messy, adolescence is messy, adulthood sucks. For everyone, in one way or another. And who wants to be reminded, unless it can be exploited? How much better, how much more entertaining, if we can pass judgment. If the heel we come to love and hate on TV remains forever a heel. But no one is a cartoon in the end, and we would do well to remember that. No villain is just a villain. Every heel has a life, as the title of this poem says, a backstory. We all have a backstory. I needed to have lived a little more of my backstory to write this poem. I could not have sympathized with my subject, in a useful way, without having crashed and burned once or twice, without accepting that I too have a messy story to tell and have never been a two-dimensional cartoon, try as I might have to become one. I needed to be able to set aside judgments based in ignorance for judgments based in experience. And that's why I started to see this poem as an act of compassion. Compassion for the heel, certainly, whose survival through darkness and difficulty and whose lifelong attempts to live a meaningful life actually made him more honorable in my eyes, despite his many, many flaws. And that's why I started to see this poem as an act of compassion for myself, too, as a way to understand and claim a piece of the darkness that unites us all as people. Because we're all in this shit together. You, me, and the great heel of my youth. A man named Roderick George Toombs, whom you may know as the professional wrestler, Rowdy Roddy Piper. Rest in peace, Hot Rod. We're all in this shit together. And so, in the hope that we can all understand and accept each other with a little more compassion, since we're all a bunch of heels and villains and train wrecks and tragic figures anyway, this is John Tessitore concluding another installment of Be True. If you've listened this long, thank you. You can find all of my work, including Heel, as a free download at johntessitore.com. But first, YouTube Hot Rod and watch a guy blow up your screen. I know it's professional wrestling, I know it's silly, and I know it can be offensive, but there will never be a better, more annoying, more irritating, more joyful, funnier heel, or a better improviser in sports entertainment. Special thanks to me for today's theme music, which I call A Chord. Maybe we'll talk again, and if you enjoyed this little podcast, leave some stars or a review and tell your friends. In the meantime, you got it. I gotta feed the dog. All right, Luna, I'm coming.